A very big hello and warm welcome and joining us for the President's Design Award second webinar in the Education and Career series, What They Don't Tell You About a Product and Industrial Design Career. My name is Juliana Tan and I will be your MC for today. The President's Design Award, or PDA for short, is Singapore's highest accolade for designers and designs across all disciplines. Organized by the Design Singapore Council and the Urban Redevelopment Authority, this is the 13th cycle of the award. The latest crop of 11 PDA 2020 recipients were awarded on 30th of June 2021, and you can find the traveling exhibition at the Singapore University of Technology and Design Campus Level 2, and it will be there until the 31st of March 2022. The next call for entries for PDA 2023 will also be launching in September, so do follow Design Singapore Council on Instagram for exciting updates. And just a couple of house rules just to keep today's session running as smoothly as possible. Firstly, please be informed that this webinar will be recorded and that your microphones will be muted throughout the session. You are, however, most welcome to submit questions through the Zoom Q&A function, and the speakers will address them during the Q&A segment. Should you encounter any technical issues, please do ping our technical team via the Zoom chat function. So in this second edition of the PDA Education and Career series, students, fresh graduates, and professionals interested in a career in product, industrial, and user experience design will have an up-close and personal opportunity to dialogue with the recipients of Singapore's highest design accolade. So how is the role of a product or industrial designer like in reality? And how has it evolved over the years? What is on an employer's wish list when looking out for prospective hires? And how can design graduates better prepare for it? What is the career progression in this field like? So many questions that our panel of speakers will be tackling today. And of course, now it is my pleasure to introduce the recipients on our panel. We have Mr. Nathan Yong, founder of Nathan Yong Design and PDA 2008 Designer of the Year. Ms. Karen Auer, Design Director and Partner of Chemistry and PDA 2016 Design of the Year for vScan Access. Mr. Jeremy Sun, Design Director of Orcadesign Consultants and PDA 2013 Design of the Year for the initial signature range. Mr. Casey Yong, Senior Principal User Experience Consultant of Dell and PDA 2013 Design of the Year for the Dell Inspiron 2340 All-in-One PC. And our moderator for today is Ms. Victoria Khoo, who is a lead UX researcher at DBS Bank and 2015 recipient of the Design Singapore Council Scholarship. But now, before we begin the session, we would like to get to know a little bit more about you. So tell us who you are via the poll that will be launching on your screen. We're expecting a whole series of different demographics today. So let us know whether you are a student or perhaps you are a fresh graduate who has just started working for 1 or 2 years in the field. Or maybe you are already a working professional in the design or perhaps not in the design industry. Just let us know in the poll below. We would certainly love to find out more about you. So you should be seeing a poll that has popped up on the screen. If you can just let us know over there. We are expecting a whole lot of different demographics today. And I'm pretty sure everything that will be shared during the session later, we would all greatly benefit, whether or not you're still in school, whether you're in the field, you've just started in the field. All the questions above would be super interesting for you to know. Okay, we're seeing a very good mix actually. 40% of you are students. We've got 14% who are fresh graduates, those who have been working in the field for 1 or 2 years, and 47% of you are working professionals. Okay, now that we know that, can you tell us a little bit more about your background and which fields that you are currently studying or working in? You can definitely choose more than one option, but our options are number 1, product and industrial design. Would it be 2, UI UX design? Would it be 3, visual communications, or perhaps you're in advertising? Number 4 would be architecture and or interior design. Number 5, perhaps you are in another design discipline, Or number 6, maybe you're not in design, maybe thinking about it, but you're here to find out more. It's going to be very interesting if we start seeing a lot of people in number 6. I would imagine, I'm going to predict that maybe we're going to see a little bit more people on the product and industrial design side today, considering the topic for today. But again, I wouldn't be too surprised if there are people from non-design disciplines who are here to find out a little bit more, perhaps thinking about a career switch, perhaps you've been doing it on the side and you just want to hear from the experts. So share with us, especially if you're from other design disciplines, if you're going to be choosing number 5, or perhaps you are in a non-design discipline, type in the chat below. Let us know which industry you're currently in. It will be very, very interesting for us to find out where our audience is from today. We are also going to be taking a look at the poll results to see where some of you are from. And yes, I think we've kind of predicted the right answers. 41% of you are from the product and industrial design industry. We have 13% of you in the UI UX design. Surprisingly, nobody in advertising or visual communications here, or perhaps you're a bit too shy to press that button. 11% of you in architecture and interior design, 10% in other design disciplines, and a pretty staggering 25% of you come from non-design disciplines. So whether or not you're currently already in the design line, I'm pretty sure you're going to be drawing some inspiration and information from our panel today. So that was just a simple one to get things started. Thank you so much for your participation in the polls. Now that we've gotten to know each other a little bit better, let's go straight into the sharing by our speakers. And without further ado, let us welcome our first speaker, Mr. Nathan Yong. After graduating from Temasek Polytechnic with a diploma in industrial design in 1991, Nathan began his career as a buyer who traveled extensively to source for quality manufacturers and craftsmen to develop furniture and home accessories. Nathan won the prestigious Red Dot Concept Design Award for 2 consecutive years in 2006 and 2007, and in 2008 he received the Distinguished President's Design Award Designer of the Year. Nathan's work has been exhibited globally in design centers in Singapore, Shizuoka, Milan, London, Cologne, and Taipei, and has appeared in international magazines like Wallpaper, Monocle, Surface, Dwell, On Office, and Habitus. His work is inspired by observation of the visual environment and then challenges the existential questions of the objects. Instead of superfluous details, he captures the poetry of products through a stripping process, lending the object quantities that are informed by a lightness of restraints. So Nathan, over to you, please.
Thank you, Juliana. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming in after lunch break. I'm Nathan Yong. I've been doing product design for the last 20 years, starting from my own business. When I graduated around 23 years old, I actually didn't work as product designer. I was, like what Juliana said, I was a buyer, I was a salesman, doing everything except design until I opened my own shop at 29 years old. So I just want to go through some of the slides that I've been sorry. It's a bit slow. Okay, I think it's very important to be authentic. That's why I'm going to show you my parents to let you guys know about my background. I'm really old. I'm at 51 years old right now. So you see the pictures of the old Singapore. That's the environment I grew up with. It's beside a shipyard. And that's my parents, my parents and my sisters. So I stay in a place where it's beside a shipyard where I can see all the nitty-gritty construction and hardship around actually in Singapore. Let me just click a bit, sorry. So I find beauty in understanding how things work naturally and not in shape and form. For example, these 3 objects that I picked up from a garage, I just find them beautiful, just clean up and spray them in white color, just to go back to their basic form, and I find them beautiful. Again, things like, I go to the industry of furniture design. because I think furniture design has a lot more freedom of expression than, let's say, electronic products. And these are some of the objects that I've designed before, like side table that's informed by rubbish bin, coffee table that's inspired by flying papers that you can see from any clinics, your friend's place. All their books and papers are thrown around. It has never been a nice, tidy coffee table. So I just thought, what's the point of designing a nice table? So instead, it's just flying papers all around. The feeling of sitting inside a shelter, in a bomb shelter, something like that, for a sofa. Let me just show you back how the sofa looks like. It's like a cocooning yourself inside a very safe comfort of cushions and all that. You probably get the drift. I don't have to explain it. You probably get where I get my inspiration from. So it should be as simple as that. And this is the first coffee table that got me chosen to got my product in Ligne Rosé, a French company. And that's where I start to design for overseas client. Some local projects like H&M, in which I'm tasked to design a bench for Laneway Festival, a rock concert at Marina Bay Sands. They wanted benches for VIP to sit on. So I got a feeling that when you listen to rock music, you start to flow and enjoy the whole thing. So I get my ideas from a ship hall. And that's the middle is where the design is at. And you can see some of the audience sitting on the bench and the way it's constructed in Malaysia. 2 Red Dot Award, clothes hanger and cum heater. And then I designed a coffin also during the last tsunami. It's stackable so that we don't ship air out from the airplane. We take a lot of space. So I designed it to be stackable and kind of a stamp printing on chipboard. So this one won the 2nd Red Dot Award. Also collaborate with Disney for Star Wars. So I got a form for 4 spacecraft from Star Wars and created objects for the home. These are mostly side tables or stools, yeah. And I'm using solid marble. These are Jewel project, the benches. Blah, blah. Some overseas client that I sell to. Design Within Reach in North America. They got, I think, 40 over shops. They're owned by Herman Miller, and they have all the classics in the shop. And this is the piece that got me into the shop in the first place. It was a TV console. And then we developed further into cabinet, sides cabinet. They made everything from this collection, so it's good for me. It paid the bills. And this is some of the designers that's been with them. Most of them are dead, except me, still alive, very happy. And the French. Yeah, so this is what I've designed for them. A lot of these are very poetic because, as I've said, I like to do furniture design because it gives me a form of freedom of expression. I also run a furniture shop called Grafang. I founded this in 2009. So it's about 12 years now. We're at Funan Center. We bring in all the brands. I mean, not all the brands. We bring brands from Europe, from Japan. Yeah, and these are the brands that I have in, and also including my brand Folks up there, where it's made in Malaysia and we export to Europe and USA. I think that's about all.
Thank you very much, Nathan. And our next speaker is Karen Auer, Design Director and Partner of Chemistry. Karen heads the experience and service design projects at Chemistry, where she works with the team to craft engaging user experiences across various industries. Originally from Austria, Karen has worked across the globe for companies like Kessel's Kramer and IDEO prior to joining chemistry. She holds master's degrees in communication and experience design. So Karen strongly believes in the transformative power of human-centered design, whether applied to public service streams or whole city districts. This concern for strong impact with a clear social component can also be seen in passion projects such as the for-impact organization Education International, which focuses on giving access to education for bright students in developing countries. So Karen, over to you.
Thanks a lot, and hello everyone. I'm actually enjoying this sharing as well. Just seeing what Nathan has shared shows like how broad and diverse the design practice can be. So let me share a little bit about my own design practice. So my name is Karen, and I am, as shared, design director and partner at Chemistry. Chemistry is a strategic design consultancy based both in Singapore and Amsterdam, and we are very much impact driven. So the kind of work that we do puts both people and the planet at the center of our work. So the way that we approach design is really from a planet-centric point of view. But what I want to share with you today is a little bit more of how I got into design and how I actually ended up where I am now. It was already a little bit hinted at in the introduction that actually I came from quite a varied background, and I have been living and working in a variety of different countries. And that has really shaped my view in design and shaped my practice. And wherever I am now, I'm pretty sure that's not going to be the final destination. There's more to come. So my journey into design and out of it. It all started off in Vienna. So that's where I'm originally from, and I did my first master's there in visual communication design. But I immediately knew that I actually wanted more than just that. So I spent some more time in the Netherlands, where I had a chance in Rotterdam to also experience Dutch design, focusing on illustration and typography. Then I moved to Berlin, where I actually worked a little bit in advertising. I heard no one from advertising background is joining us today. I personally also did not very much enjoy working in this field. So I moved on to London, where I did a second master focus on experience design. And so you can really see here how my view on design, what a designer can do, and which part of the process you're involved, is something that I continuously tried to push and also just started to explore as I was going from education into actual practice. From London, I then moved to Zurich, where I was working in an urban think tank, looking at the future visions for cities, and finally then made my move to Japan, to Asia, which was at that time for me a quite scary big move, having never been in Asia before, but really fulfilling. And since now 10 years, I haven't left Asia. So from Tokyo, working at a university, and then finally in 2011, moved to Singapore. As I was moving across all those different countries, I was also moving through disciplines, and I was moving through different kinds of fields that I was looking at and different kinds of challenges I was working on. So what I learned in university is still relevant to some extent, but I can definitely say that my practice and my view on design has expanded far beyond it, and I can definitely guarantee that it will further expand. And I think I can guarantee everyone here on this call that your definition of design will continue to expand as well. So what I want to go through today is a quick overview of, I think, 4 projects that I've done in the recent years that can be mapped on something called the design spheres. This is actually a framework developed by Richard Buchanan, very interesting concept that maps out the different challenge arenas or different challenge spaces that designers work in, and how those challenge spaces are continuously growing and expanding. This is by no means a ranking that one is less than the other. It's just highlighting how actually we as designers continuously look at different and more complex problems, which is scary, but also very exciting. So the first project that I want to talk about is, like in the space of visual communication design, actually a phone bill. So this was a project we did several years ago with Singtel. Those of you who actually are Singtel customers and still get a printed bill might be familiar with that. So this was all about making a phone bill, I wouldn't say delightful, but at least less painful. So really redesigning completely the consumer and enterprise bill, understanding how can we make it easy to understand, clear to view, and reduce the bill shock that some of us might get when we actually view this bill. So as mentioned before, was really about starting with the users and understanding their need. But moving beyond designing symbols, visual communication, the next sphere of design is things, designing products and objects, like, for example, an ultrasound device. This was a project that we did together with GE Healthcare, and it actually won the President's Design Award in 2016, focusing on how we could empower midwives with technology, specifically an ultrasound device. And the interesting part of this project was that we were focusing very clearly on a user group in sub-Saharan Africa and in rural Indonesia or Myanmar. So places with very specific needs where the medical practitioners are highly skilled, but we have to work in a really rough environment. So really understanding how we can create a device, both the physical object as well as the interface that is intuitive and easy to use for them. So we spend a lot of time in their environment, understanding their needs, understanding the work environment, and really understanding how we can create a device that really works for them. And what is exciting for me is that this is not only rolled out successfully in Indonesia and in various African countries, we actually also see it being picked up increasingly in Europe, where the mobility, the sturdiness, and the very intuitive interface designed for people who really need to be able to work very quickly and pick it up easily resonates just as much. So this is really looking at how design focused on people, putting the user at the center, can create really impactful solutions. But moving on in our framework, from symbols to objects, further out to interactions. And this is really one of the key areas that I am working on in recent years, actually designing experiences, designing services, where you bring together various aspects of design, various domains of design. And one of the projects I want to share here is a year-long engagement that we did for the Woodlands Hospital. This is still under construction, unfortunately delayed due to COVID, but nonetheless very exciting because it was actually giving us the chance to rethink what a hospital with a human touch could be like, where we can combine technology to make it efficient with more seamless and user-centric or patient-centric processes to make it, again, I wouldn't say delightful, but a lot less stressful than hospitals often can be. So we looked at designing the pharmacy, the outpatient clinic, and even the patient service center, conducting a lot of research to understand what works and what doesn't work, but also doing extensive prototyping. So we actually built out the full pharmacy space, for example, as you can see it here, and tested not only the physical layout, how the counters would look like, as well as the digital touch points, for example, the kiosk for registration, as well as the app that would guide patients through the campus. But we also looked at the processes and we tested it out together with staff, with people in the community, as well as with the hospital planners. And all that allowed us to then put forward a very comprehensive experience blueprint, looking at the layout, the spatial design, as well as the digital design. But for the last project, final project that I want to share with you today, I want to move even further out in my diagram. And I think that is really the most exciting part for me, the newest development where I see design going, designing actual systems. Because the more complex the world is in which we are working as designers, the more we need to be really aware of not only the product itself and how it impacts the users, but also how it impacts the system that the product will be used. And this includes, of course, the organization, the business, but even the whole ecosystem. So one example that we're currently working on is a project with the fashion ecosystem. And this idea of a systems-based approach for design is also something that is fundamental to the idea of a more sustainable approach to design. So what we are focusing on more and more is to really look at how can we move from a linear economy, from a linear approach to design, to a more circular economy and a circular approach to design. So not a single use life cycle for a product where we extract resources, create a product, use it, and then dispose of it, but where we actually try to reuse things, recycle things, and close the loop and keep the value of the product within the system. So specifically here, we're working together with TAF, the Textile and Fashion Association in Singapore, as well as the Austrian Fashion Association, with a European Union grant and a partner of us in Amsterdam on looking at how we can create more lasting relationships with clothing. So tracking the ownership and the provenance of fast fashion goods on a blockchain, thinking through the whole system, what it would mean if you would keep clothing longer, or if you could track the history of our clothing, how this could not only change our behavior with our clothing, but also how this could change the overall value chain of fashion. This is really something that is very exciting and close to my heart to really see how we as designers can move forward. So then lastly, I think the key is to note that your education is not a blueprint for your career. You will continuously have to expand and push it. What you have now is a way of thinking, and it's going to get a lot more exciting as you move forward.
All right, thank you so much, Karen, for your insightful sharing. Next up, we have Jeremy Sun, Design Director of Orcadesign Consultants. Orcadesign Consultants is a strategic design and research consultancy with studios in Singapore and Malaysia. Under Jeremy's stewardship, Orcadesign has been empowering clients' business through innovative strategies and solutions. Jeremy has been on both ends of design awards, both as a jury, as an award-winning team lead with international accolades. He has been leading design thinking and ethnography research and innovation programs for both Fortune 500 companies, government agencies, international brands, local corporates, SME, and educational institutions, guiding the stakeholders to reframe challenges, creating compelling visions and propositions, and crafting innovations that resonate with their target audiences. So Jeremy, over to you. Jeremy, I think you might be muted.
Yeah, thank you, Juliana. And thank you to see you all here. It has been an interesting opportunity for me to share some of my personal thoughts, which usually wouldn't share in typical events. And I'm very inspired by looking at the sharing from both Nathan as well as Karen. So this topic really makes a point, because I realized after working for almost 30 years, there are a lot of things that we're not told when we're students or even at the beginning of our career. So I would be very happy to share some of these. Some may apply to you, but some may not. But I hope that you find some of the points useful. Just a quick glance of the project we've been doing in the past few years. As you can see that it's not just about product design and the typical definition of industrial design. As Karen puts very well, beyond products and objects, there are also digital solutions, service, experience design, etc., etc. Also including innovation workshop facilitation as well as coaching. So back to the question, how I started. I would say it was a bit of an interest plus a bit of a luck, because as a high school student, I clearly didn't know what design was about. What caught my attention was a list of subjects to be studied for industrial design, which sounds quite interesting and different from the usual ones. Well, it did help that building Lego objects was my favorite childhood hobby, and that arts and crafts seems to be quite enjoyable for me. So one of the things I learned quite early in my career is that graduation from a design course marks the start of a lifelong learning journey. It doesn't end the learning. In fact, it actually opens up the whole new journey of learning. So in fact, over the years, I have been working on projects that I didn't expect I will when I just graduated. As Karen put it, the key design skills remain important, but the scope of work has evolved so much that my professors wouldn't have known what was coming our way and couldn't have warned us in advance and prepared us enough. And so in fact, this is an understatement to say that it's the beginning of a lifelong learning. The reality is that learn or obsolete. It sounds a bit harsh, but that's exactly how the world of design goes. And also, like it or not, being a designer is never just about design. So over the years, I've come across, some people saying that I'm here to design, I'm employed to design, so I'm not here to do this or that. So I hope I'm not being, discouraging, but design is not a standalone or isolated activity that are served by, a team. More than that, more often than that, designers need to be self-serving, which means looking for the missing puzzles or make things happen if it's not happening yet. So in fact, a lot of non-design centric tasks are, part of our responsibilities, and learning and executing these tasks makes us a better designer. I've also learned that you are the only one in the team who speaks design. So therefore, it's important to make your design and yourself understood, particularly in a team made of multidisciplinary members. Designers are usually the only persons who know what design is about and speak design. So it's our responsibility to make ourselves and our work understood. For example, finding ways to better communicate the thoughts and outcome instead of expecting others to read our mind. And we know how important is creativity. We can't overemphasize that. And creativity is essential, but it is not enough by itself. What I meant is that a lot of the so-called results of the project come from the execution with meticulous minds as well as effort. So we have also heard of people saying that ideas are cheap, which is in a way it's true because it's the execution that can bring ideas to life and deliver the intended impacts. But to be fair, I like to say that good ideas are not exactly cheap. There are also different sorts of roles designers can play and should play. So let's not stuck in the idea that designers do design, making design, and that's the only roles they can play. In fact, really based on your interests as well as your experiences and skills, there are many roles we can play being designers. So here I just have a quick list of the different types of design roles we can play. So we can ask ourselves, what are the roles that we're currently playing? Are we also playing the role of advocator? Are we planning the whole projects? Are we also doing research? Are we facilitating the whole team to create results? Or do we actually work more on the engineering side, invention side, or even educating? But the question is also, what are the roles you wish to play next, which might be different from what you're doing currently, and what needs to be done in order for you to reach that? This brings me to think about right brain and left brain, because I also teach, creative thinking and design, and this is a very interesting aspect, because we tend to think of design skills as the most important things. And it is indeed important, but I also like to look at another aspect, which is called talents. So everyone is born with certain type of talents. And these are the traits and inclination that often come from within. It's not just a born capabilities, but they can also be cultivated. So in the context of design and designer, I look at the talents that can be roughly categorized into left brain and right brain. Right brain represents, in the blue color, represent the blue sky, because it's about imagination and creation. Whereas the left brain is represented with green, sort of the color of the ground, the land, which will ground us. So depending on your interests as well as your talents, you might find a certain area that you are most interested in and certain type of roles you would like to play. And I also realized that in the design industry, somehow people focus a little bit more on the blue side, which is the right brain function. But over the years, I realized how important it is to have the other side to balance the the work and the output. It's important to have someone who is very structural, very organizational, analytical, in order to deliver that necessary vision as well as the communication. So one of the examples we can see here is that if you try to map yourself on this, you can clearly see what is your diagram. So the question is, do we need to further strengthen certain parts, or do we need to leverage on our stronger talents? So knowing and cultivating our design talents beyond honing our design skills is very important, because that sort of define what sort of designers we are. And this also brings me to think about a very useful way of thinking, especially in recent years, when people talk about ikigai. Ikigai means the purpose in life. So in fact, for us as designers, we're probably also thinking about this question. And I realized that if you're really into design, you probably find that design is a vocation as well as a profession, which comes with a mission quite often, and that requires a passion in order for us to go far. That brings me to talk about one of the projects we've done a few years ago, which kind of reflects such aspects of a design career. It is not about creating the most desirable products with the fanciest features, but instead is to understand the needs and aspirations of the people, in this case, the seniors, to share the learning as well as to guide the designers and innovators to create meaningful solutions. A project that focuses on how to create a meaningful and relatable technological solution for the aging society. The project was quite a turning point in my career, because I started to see, how design could benefit the society, and not just benefiting, let's say, a manufacturer. This project led to a series of insight-driven projects related to aging, mental health, patient experience, etc. So with the last slide would be my, no, not yet, my attempt to define what is design ikigai, if it actually exists. So because there are problems and needs that exist that need to be addressed and improved or fulfilled, as well as changes in our world that call for solutions, designers are required in this context to help understand and address the needs of the changes. But each one of us are different. So how do we find our ikigai? So in my mind, there are three ways we can look at it. First is look at our aspiration, what drives us. Second is, as we briefly mentioned, what are our talents, what are in us. And third one, which is very important, is about grit, is what we are willing to go through and put through in order to reach our goals. So if you put these three together, you can see that when aspiration matches the talents, we have a direction. When we have the grit and the talents, we have the expertise, something we're very good at. But there might be a gap between aspiration and where we want to go. But with the grit, there will be growth. So if we put these three together, we can roughly say that we probably have found our purpose in design career. And as you can see, we can, it's been, testified by many designers, including Nathan, Karen, as well as Casey, that will be, sharing after me. So with that, it ends my sharing, and I hope that, you can find something useful in your future development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. And last but not least, let us welcome Casey Yong, Senior Principal User Experience Consultant of Dell. Casey Yong is the user experience leader in Dell Singapore, specializing in ergonomics, usability, behavior research, interaction design, and user interface design. His expertise is in uncovering users' tacit needs and aligning them with business strategies. Prior to Dell, he was in creative technology and DSO National Laboratories. His passion for design has translated to numerous prestigious awards, including the Singapore President's Design Award, International Design Excellence Award, and the Red Dot Design Award. Casey is also the president-elect of the Human Factors and Ergonomics Society of Singapore, and his aspiration is to build a strong team in expanding the reach and relevance of human factors and ergonomics to achieve the ultimate goal in driving human progress. So Casey, over to you.
Thank you, Gianna. Hi, everyone. My name is Casey. To start off, I would like to give everyone a walkthrough of my design experience. My first experience started when I was doing my first degree in University of Birmingham, where I learned about ergonomics. I was intrigued about how products are designed based on human needs and capability. With that strong interest, I continued to pursue this domain when I was doing my master's in NTU, and I learned about human-computer interactions. When I graduated, I joined the military organization's DSO, where I became a human factors specialist. And in DSO, I have the opportunity to design sophisticated command and control rooms and console. Then I decided to join the private sector, creative, wanting to learn about software user interface. Then in 2007, I joined Dell. This is my 15 years with Dell. I am very fortunate to be able to work with an incredible team that makes 15 years flies. Before I share with you about the user experience design in Dell product, I would like to share some interesting facts about Dell Singapore. Firstly, all Dell display and peripherals are designed and developed in Singapore, and that includes the mouse, keyboard, conference speakers, webcam, headsets, and many more. Secondly, for display, in terms of the worldwide market share, we are #1 for 8 consecutive years, and we are very honored that people have chosen us as their choice, and we will continue to innovate and deliver the best to our customers. Now, over the years, we have several learning, and I would like to share with you our experience. Now, the first design philosophy that we have is to get to know your users and observe their behavior, understand their habits, their workflow, the environment, and focus in helping them to increase their productivity. Now, in the commercial world, we have learned that many users use multiple windows when they are working. Imagine every day they start working and they need to make adjustment to the windows. In long term, that's actually a significantly loss in terms of productivity. Now, to boost productivity, we offer the users a way to manage the windows. Now, users can choose a layout based on their workflow and easily snap the window onto it. Such functionality
Easy Arrange lets you quickly and conveniently tile your favorite applications.
But also increase their workflow.
Quickly snap your applications into one of 30.
Now, for the their needs and workflow. Now, we learned that this group of professionals, that they actually calibrate their monitor regularly and to ensure color accuracies. Now, conventionally, users have to set up the color calibration device. They have to wait at least 30 minutes for the monitor to warm up, and then wait for another 30 to 60 minutes to calibrate the monitor before they start work. So, to cut down the hassle, we integrate the color calibration device and enable users to schedule their calibrations, and this allows them to warm up their display and calibrate before they arrive in the studio. that results is actually a big saving of time for the users. This is the Alienware display, and in designing this Alienware display, we collaborated with the professionals esports team, Team Liquid. We gathered valuable feedback from them and incorporate their feedback into the product. We also went to the esports competition to observe how they game, and we noticed that the gamers place the keyboard at an angle while they are playing. We learned that the reason why they're doing so is that to place their hand and wrist at a very natural, comfortable position. Now, the issue is that many of the monitors have very bulky stands and interfere with the display. So gamers are unable to place the keyboards the way that they want. Now, with these insights, we specifically designed the legs in a taper manner, a very thin manner, and to make it thin enough for the keyboard to slide in without interference. And this enabled the gamers to place their keyboard at a very perfect angles that they want. The second design philosophy is to pay attention to every details of the design, understand how they could impact on ergonomics. There are many considerations that are not obvious, but important to our users and customers. The considerations comes from listening to the users, the customers, those who are purchasing the IT devices, and observing their workspace. Let me share with you some insights here. Now, we hear from our customers that office rental has gone up significantly. Companies are optimizing the space so that they can accommodate more staff. This consideration has in turn influenced customers' decisions in purchasing furniture and IT systems. We saw that this is a consequence of this trend would be a smaller table, and this compromises the user's viewing distance. Now, in this diagram, and on the right, it basically shows the conventional display, and that gives the users a shorter viewing distance. That is not ideal. And the reason is because the display has a larger stance design and a thicker panel. Now, the newer ultra-thin display on the left has a smaller stand design and a thinner panel, and that gives users a long viewing distance. Now, apart from the optimal viewing distance, the new monitors also have smaller footprint and thus free up space for the users. And this is a good example how we go beyond basic and guidelines to meet the needs of the users and customers. The third design philosophy is anticipate gaps in new norms, help users to deal with them. Now, during COVID, many people are working from home, and we hear people complaints about clutters on their small desks, the laptops, the keyboard, the mouse, microphone, camera, speakers are all fighting for spaces. And the workspace look very cluttered and messy. And that's why we designed a display that integrates all the peripherals together, all in one single product, so users don't have to deal with the setups and the messy cables. The webcam also has adjustable tilts, capture the users in the best position. The speakers are strategically placed at the top of the screens that align the users to the ear, allowing them to hear clearly. And thanks to the AI technology, the cameras automatically frame the user, so no matter where the users are, their face is always in the middle of the screen. The last philosophy is, in Dell, we strive for more inclusive design so that our products can be used by as many people as possible, including some with special needs. And when we are designing the large interactive display, we notice that some users are unable to reach the content at the top of the screen. Users has such challenge includes those who are on the wheel and those shorter users, such as children. To overcome the issues, we come up with a way to allow users to bring the screen down and then give them options to choose the height that they would like to. And this is a great example of good design for all. This is a quick recap of the 4 design philosophy. They serve as a reminder for me to think about users' changing needs and inspire me. I hope they can inspire you too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Casey, and thank you, recipients, for sharing on your inspiring and impactful projects. I'll now hand the time over to our moderator, Victoria, for the Q&A session. So Victoria is a service designer with a specialty in user experience research. She is a lead UX researcher at DBS Bank's Group Design, where she champions user centricity and coaches business and product teams to embed customer insights to drive innovation. Trained also as a product designer in her undergraduate years, Victoria has been driven by the passion to bring delightful experiences to people's everyday interactions with products and services. Besides banking and finance, her experience spans working on projects in diverse industries such as retail, F&B, technology, transport, and education. So welcome, Victoria and the recipients.
Yeah, thank you so much, Juliana. And it was such an inspiring sharing from the speakers. And well, thank you, listeners, for your enthusiasm. I already see quite a few questions streaming in, so do keep your questions coming in. But without further ado, let's get cracking with the questions. Yeah, as Juliana shared, I was previously a product designer, trained again in my master's in service design, but things has changed since I graduated. So I would like to ask the speakers, how has the product and industrial design industry changed since you started? I know several of you come from different disciplines, and how do you think this will transform in the future?
Maybe I'll start with this, right? In the past, we have been designing kind of like products that are kind of standalone, like for example, monitor, and then we move on to design like keyboard and things like that. And as things has become smarter and smarter, and users are expecting the products to look simpler, now that is the challenge where designers have to deal with the complexity, how to actually present the product, how to design a product that looks simple, pleasing, and yet is smart and connected, and it works together with different peripherals altogether. And that is something that the experience that we have got, and the challenge that we are kind of facing, and to deliver something that the users want, being simple and easy to use.
Thank you so much, Casey. Actually, I was interested to hear from Jeremy, because you've mentioned that when you got into industrial design or product design, there are some things your professor didn't tell you, right? And could you share along this line of thinking, what do you expect or imagine a role as a product design industrial designer would be versus the reality today, and with the experience that you have now?
Yeah, sure. When I first graduated, I believed or I thought a designer is the one who design, right? With a very narrow definition. But over the years, I realized the design, the word itself as a verb, covers so many things. I mean, it starts from the planning, the strategy, and you are also at the same time acting like an anthropologist, trying to understand not just the user but also the stakeholders, all kinds of stakeholders. I mean, the client's procurement team, for example, the technician, the cleaner, etc., etc. Anyone who might have a brief or long-term relationship with the product that we're designing, we're there to understand it. And I realized there's no one else who can take up this role. It is our responsibility. And it's our responsibility to translate the findings into solutions that can benefit everyone. every stakeholder of that particular solution. So this is the kind of a revelation, I would say, over the years that we realize our role is not really a silo job. Quite often we are the connector. We are also the implementer. Yeah. So I hope it doesn't sound very daunting or challenging.
Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, I think this really resonates with what Casey earlier shared, where it's really about the user. You have many stakeholders and expectations are changing. You're dealing with a lot of complexity in problems. But I was wondering if Nathan or Karen, did you have any response with, when you first started in this industry, be it product or industrial design? I know, Karen, you come from a visual comms. How do you think it has transformed in your past experience?
Maybe I'll just start with, I think there's not much change for furniture design or home accessories because it's basically a low-tech industry. I mean, there are some technology like 6-axis CNC machine and all that, but all those play a very small part in the whole outcome of furniture, from design to production to what people's needs are. And I think that's the reason why I go to furniture, because at the end of the day, we still need to sit on a sofa. Whereas like Jeremy or Casey and Dell that deal with technology, it moves super fast. So a sofa doesn't change much in that sense compared to a laptop or a computer. So I wouldn't say in a big picture, it changes a lot actually. Yeah, even though there's changes like, oh, people work from home or there's smart furniture, it suddenly take off. I wonder, is it because home is something that people want to run away from technology maybe? And that suits me well. Like furniture should be as low tech as possible maybe. So I think there's not much change for furniture design in that way. Yeah.
Karen, do you actually agree with the view in terms of your career experience? Has things been quite low to change, or have you experienced a lot of change? I know that you've gone through many geographies and you have quite an expensive career. Yeah, what is your take on this career? Yeah.
Well, I would definitely say that there is a lot of change and transformation happening, but I think Jeremy said it as well, that the core design skills still very much apply. So for example, one thing that we see with the move towards circular design, where we need to see, okay, how can we design both products and services that are, for example, recyclable or reusable? So how can we use circular design principles to, coming back to the point on furniture, that are easily repairable, that are easily, you can take apart, etc. So it's on one hand an expansion of your skills and an expansion of your understanding. So you need to work with a whole set of stakeholders, including, for example, business designers, business people. Of course, you have to also think about the business model that's involved. But fundamentally, you need to tap on your design skills. If you understand that you want to design something that is easily repairable, then you need to know how you actually go about doing that. So it's about holding on to your core design skills and being flexible and continuously learning to expand what it actually means as a designer to work in this space.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, so there were a few themes that were shared during your presentations. And one that you've just mentioned is lifelong learning. I think this is one of the common threads that all of you speakers have shared, that you evolved as you went about your design career. And I really liked what Casey shared, or I think it was Jeremy, I can't remember, but something very impactful, evolve with the times or become obsolete. So can you share in your design practice, have you guys embraced any shifts or pivots? And how have you then navigated and embraced these changes in your careers?
I can start. And then this is actually an experience in my kind of design career. And I was actually, when I was in DSO, kind of like working as a human factors specialist and designing really the hardware, right? And as I move to creative and I start to learn about software user interface. And when I joined Dell, and that gives me the opportunity to marry these two skills together, and that gives me really, the opportunity to, offer or design something more meaningful or richer experience to the users. So I think that is one of the benefit of really expanding your skill sets. And then we are also looking at new technology, 5G, the new AI, and we have to deal with all this new technology and how do we harness all this new technology and build into the products and to make it really simple for users to use. So that is something that we are seeing now in the kind of product design situation. Yeah.
Thank you, Casey.
Let me just add that I think my fellow panelists agree that design is part art and part technology. And if it's part art, I think we need to be very passionate in life. And I think when you're passionate in life, you just get on with understanding, frustrating about what life holds and trying to find solution and just leave everything, be it happiness, sadness, and whatsoever. So it just consumes you no matter what. It's not a job where, you know, like you need to upgrade yourself, you need to pivot yourself. But I think it's a constant thing for, if you're very committed designers or you're really a true blue designers, it's always in you to want to grow, try to understand, try to find solutions. And I think with that, it should come very naturally. If it's not, then you probably don't want to be a designer to start with.
Thank you, Nathan. So what Casey shared, you know, when he moved from hardware to software to interfaces, and what Nathan shared about merging the different arts and science together, really forms the practice of design. And I think that's a common thread that these panelists have shared about how they've navigated changes as they went along their careers. I'm wondering if the rest have any other things to add on before I move to the next question.
Maybe just to jump in here as well, I think there maybe would be two big changes from coming out of university and then actually experience what design is in the real world, quote unquote. I think the first thing is really the need to be willing to engage with the people you design for. I think it came up in a few of the sharing that you need to facilitate, you need to actually be curious about the people you design for, talk to them, work with them, and get engaged with them, the users, but also the production, which is something that might not necessarily come natural to all designers. It's not necessarily something that you get to that extent when you're studying design. That you really, it is on one hand maybe an art and craft that is very much you and your craft, but you also need to be willing to go out. So that's the first thing. The second shift that has happened for me in recent years is really this moving and seeing a need to understand more about business. If you work strategically in design and if you want to advise and consult a business on a product or a service, you also need to understand what it actually means. What in introducing a new service, a new business, a new product would actually mean to their business. It doesn't mean that you have to turn into a business consultant, but you need to have an understanding of business models and need to have an understanding of how your product would actually come to market and be a viable product there.
Thank you so much, Karen, for the addition of such a salient point that it's not only about the users that we are designing for, but also the business stakeholders that we have to engage. And how do we look at these stakeholders as an entity and not just in silos, right? Yeah. Okay, great. And I think previously, along the thread of the themes that have come out in the conversations, one of it is, you know, with technology and digital. Because Nathan mentioned that, okay, in furniture design, I would rather keep it very low tech. But with the others, it seems that technology and digital has been disrupting us in many ways. Have you seen that this has actually disrupted the product industrial design practice?
Sorry, having said what I've said, try back a bit. No, I think we still need to engage technology to help selling, for example, or development, but not in creativity in that sense. Yeah.
Okay, so embracing digital and technology and enabling us to sell. How has technology or digital disrupted your practice? Anyone else?
I mean, fundamentally, it's about the user, the people that will use your design. So it can't be technology for the technology's sake. You need to understand how they're going to use it. So it's about employing it, having it, using it as a means to an end, but not just because it's the latest technology. It has to be integrated. We often hear this, oh, we need to include this, we need to include that, we now need to like design for the metaverse. It is really about understanding what we're trying to achieve and then finding the right application, the right technology for that. And it might be low tech or it might be high tech.
Yep. Thank you, Karen. So really using technology as a tool, as a means to an end. And how have you guys embraced this and integrated this within your careers?
Yeah,
okay, Casey, go ahead.
Maybe I'll add a little bit more to the questions that you just mentioned, is that during the COVID times, right, and we kind of like face a new norm where people kind of work from home and they couldn't go to office, right, and they couldn't collaborate. Now, the technology really gives us the opportunity to, having everybody to be in Zoom. And what we're doing now, doing this webinar, through Zoom, and to have so many people to be in this forum to hear and share, about knowledge. So that is something that technology really has disrupted and also helped in times like this, especially now. So we see that will be a continuous thing, and there's still a lot of opportunity there. There's still a lot of gaps that we are facing and finding ways to address that. And that actually presents a big opportunity for designers to help solve and to help people better collaborate and express their thoughts, in this kind of new hybrid work situation.
Thank you, Casey. So really leveraging technology to address the gaps, really using it as opportunities to help make our work, be it hybrid, much better. Okay, I'll move on to the next question.
Sorry, I just want to stress one thing. Although, Credit said that it's a tool for design, I just hope that the young listener down here won't be like sitting on a table and just design from sitting there. I think design is always about engaging people one-to-one in real life situation. And I'm just worried that young people will just take it or just sit at home, tap computers and Google and do my research rather than just talking to people. So at the end of the day, design is really about human-to-human interactions and all that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with Nathan's saying, and through experience, right? You really get a lot of information by talking to the users, talking to the customers, and go around observing the environment and piecing all this data together, and that will allow you to kind of like sharpen your intuitions and your design abilities. So, and also inspirations for you. So I think that's very important.
Thank you for the great tip and advice. Really get out there, talk to people, engage with your users, get curious about the people that you're designing for. They will inspire you and your solutions. Okay, and I see across our speakers a diversity of skill sets, backgrounds that they have shared, from designing products to designing systems. What would you say is the common thread across these design disciplines that could really benefit our users, our listeners? What's something that they can pick, be it coming from a non-design background or if they come from a design background? What is it that really holds the thread across all your disciplines?
I mean, there's definitely a lot of connections, but I think one thing that I find is really important for design is that it's not just about design as a problem-solving tool, which it definitely is, but you could argue that engineering is that as well. I think what is really exciting about design is also it's a problem-defining tool, a way to actually frame problems and uncover where the problems are. So I think this curiosity, back to what I shared before, like finding out what's actually in the world and how we can make it better, whatever that might be on a small scale to like a comfortable chair and couch, which can be quite a blessing to like really improving a whole system.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah,
well, I think design can be very inspiring also. I remember when I went to the factories in most of Southeast Asia countries like Indonesia and Malaysia that produce my furniture, I'm always greeted by very friendly workers, and they'll smile and say, oh, this is a guy that did that chair, or this is a guy that did that shelf. And surprisingly, is they appreciate beauty. Even though in their daily life, they're just putting very cheap chairs and tables for mass market in USA. When you do something beautiful, they appreciate it. I don't understand why they appreciate it, but there must be something that people appreciate beauty. And I think that's important as a designer also, or when we do design, is the beauty of design. Yeah, it's inspiring.
Thank you, Nathan. Jeremy, we have not heard from you. Would you like to share your thoughts on, as we've moved from designing just products to really designing systems, or along the whole various threads of design disciplines that you've come from? What would you say holds, what are the similarities you see that holds the practice that you guys do together?
Yeah, I think a lot have been said about design and design as a career. And interestingly, after working for so many years, I sometimes forgot that I'm a designer. And maybe because of the scope of my work, I kind of slowly forgot about the label. I mean, it's a label that was created. Perhaps it can be changed in the future for something that is easier to understand, or maybe tells us more about our profession. And I know that many people are interested in design, but this tag is very heavy, to call someone a designer. I don't have an answer for that, but I think no one knows design unless you step into it, unless you start doing it. Otherwise, it remains mysterious as a term. So I will encourage, if anyone who's interested in design, find out more yourself, talk to someone who has been in design. You can shadow them if they're willing to allow you to shadow them. Yeah, for example. And there's no fixed definition of what a designer can do, I would say. There's no limit. It's really up to your personal interests and talents. Then you can define your own design career.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. I think you have nicely summed up this question. Across the design disciplines, it's not just the beauty and the craft that you bring to the table, and how you approach problem solving and defining problem, but also your experience that makes you evolve, grow, and sharpen your tool, and use this in many ways that you can will, to again circle back to actually problem solving, right? For the people, for users that you actually are designing for. So for the next 15 minutes, I would like to take a look at the poll and pose the questions to the speakers. So one of the questions is from someone who is a non-designer coming from an engineering background, but extremely interested in the design field, particularly in UX and product design. What are some basic soft or hard skills you think this person requires, to apply for either internship or to even start a career in this field? What are some soft and hard skills to get started?
Yes, for an engineer, I myself is an engineer, and I do find the skill sets that I have, like analytical skills, engineering skills, and system engineering design skills actually helps me a lot in my work. And I think that is a big plus. Now, in addition to all these core skills, I think some of the design skills are very important, design principles, and there's a lot of books and a lot of resources that you can go and learn about it. I think those skills are very important skills in making a product really something that the customers or users would want to. And the other kind of skills is basically the ability to work together with people, the ability to work with different functions, different stakeholders, communication skills. Those are important skills, and to exchange ideas, as well as to kind of align on design directions. Yeah. So that is my advice. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Casey.
Just want to add, I think maybe to be a good listener, I think it's a very simple and expected thing that we all thought we are, but really, I think you really have to think about whether are we a good listener. And I think being a designer is you have to be one, because you have to listen from all stakeholders, manufacturer, clients, and all these things, and make the right decision that kind of pleases everyone most of the time. So I think to be a good listener is a very important skill set also.
So good, Nathan. Thank you.
Maybe adding one more thing on, I think is generally like being comfortable with ambiguity, because I think the design process can be messy, and I think some of the questions also pointed to just like changes in feedback, changes in scope, etc., is a very common and normal thing. So as a designer, being comfortable and confident to navigate through that without losing hope or getting frustrated, and keep your vision in mind, I think is very important.
And last but not least, Jeremy.
I totally agree with what Karen said, because typically I'm the one with the highest tolerance level for ambiguity and chaos, and sometimes people couldn't stand that. The thing is, it's important when we like to be a designer, is to also to nurture some mindset. For example, to understand that not the first idea probably is not the best, and that we do need time to sit on the ideas for a while, just let it incubate, and as well as so-called the open mind, which is very important. I've seen a lot of conflicts between different professions, different experts, and one of the key issue is when one or both sides don't have the open mind to really think about from the other side, or take it as an issue that can be resolved together. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a lot more again. I think this guy is a tough. It's very logical, very analytical and systematic and all that. Whereas designs, you need to be crazy and let go, like what Karin has said, you take ambiguity and all that. So I think maybe one of the tips I can tell these guys, go to a concert, watch a dance, watch a play, see a painting and a sculpture. I think art really put us in a position that we will question a lot of things. And I think you got to be very comfortable about the unknown, so that you can start thinking and lose a bit of control to get more understanding about what's around us. And so I think it's important, if you are a very engineered person, you should let loose more, maybe like start dancing, I don't know.
So poetic, Nathan. Getting comfortable with the unknown, reflecting really what Karen said about being comfortable through ambiguity, and actually what Jeremy said, embracing change, and he shared also having grit, in as a mindset. And I think what everybody echoed here, not just communications that Casey mentioned, but listening as well, and having an open mind. I think as a designer, you are the bridge, and you are actually the middle person that brings the different opinions and perspectives together. So I think that was really an enriching and great tips that you've shared with regards to this question. Another one is now towards UI and UX. How do you think UI and UX design has evolved? Now we're not even talking about the physical product or industrial, but how does UI and UX design evolve? What has it evolved? Yeah.
The UI and UX. So UI UX actually has been actually getting more and more challenging, because the technology has actually become way advanced, and there's so many use cases that we need to look after. And to distill all this complexity to a simple solution, I think that is the challenge here. And we have to kind of learn about all the new technology, the sensors, the AI theory, and then to understand how it works, and then to blend into a solutions that, something that users can use. So that is actually something that we have been kind of experiencing for the past recent years, right? And dealing with all this complexity and how to translate it to a simple solution. I think that is how the UI UX has actually evolved. And to deal with this, I think that also means that we have to learn more skills and understand, learn all the new technologies that's out there, and then find ways to blend it into design solutions for users. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Casey. Really creating simplicity out of complexity through the interactions that users have either with your products or your service. Okay, then the next question would be, to the panelists, what do you think are the most important aspects when looking for an education in product design? And does it matter that an institution is reputable? I think some of you guys are educators here. Maybe Nathan or Jeremy, you can take a step at that.
Nathan?
I thought Victoria said I shouldn't say anything because I'm in the school. I shouldn't promote my own
Nathan, please go ahead. Nathan and Jeremy, go ahead.
Well, I think as I grew up, I realized that the school is very important, but it's not about who you learn, but the people you know. So you have a good connection after you graduate, and you can get more business or tips after you graduate. So the friends are important. So I don't think the school is that important, actually. Yeah. I think a lot of things boils down to ourselves. I think if you're a driven individual and you're resourceful and you're street smart, then you should be okay anywhere. And I think a designer should have that kind of attitude, actually, even when you're a very young person, like 16 or 18 years old. You should always be very resourceful and very street smart. Having said that, I think the youth of today is a bit more are more risk adverse. So they would like to hear podcasts like this to guide them through. But when I was young, a lot of us are just like trying things out and find our own solution. And I think that's why it also makes, in the end, makes us a better designer also. I don't know, because we fail a lot, we try a lot. Against the ambiguity, help us to navigate, to make mistakes. So what am I talking about? So I'm saying is that if you are good and you are resourceful and you are tough, you have the grit, then I think wherever you go, it's fine. If you are not, then I think maybe pick up a famous one or whatsoever.
Thank you, Nathan, really for that response. So it's not really about the name of the school, it's the connections that you make, it's about being resourceful. And again, I think the theme of grit comes out, really finding the answers to the challenges that you face. This is a day-to-day job of all the designers that are here, right? Okay, yeah. So Jerry, go ahead, Jerry.
Perhaps I can add on. Frankly speaking, when I was a student, I didn't think about a reputation. I didn't know which school was good. After I graduated, I realized, oh, I didn't think. Perhaps I should have. But then again, how does it matter in the career? I mean, after all, the school education only take up just a small percentage of your career, which is really at the beginning preparing you. And I believe a lot of schools teach more or less the same thing. Yeah. But of course, you want to have a school that has some reputation because you also believe that the students there are more serious or more passionate, and etc., etc. So it's really down to the students. Yeah, I mean, good students, good designers come from all over the place, from different schools.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. And to that, you have a question directed at you regarding to your presentation earlier. Is it essential to have a right and left brain to be successful in industrial design? and also experience in business to really understand business in design strategy?
Well, well, everyone has a right and left brain, I believe. It's just how much you use either side, right, or both sides. And I do believe that it also needs to match what you are pursuing. Some jobs, some positions or roles need to be more, logical and rational, and your teammates rely on your capabilities in that. So you can imagine if the whole team is made of imaginative, dreamy designers, what's going to happen to the outcome? So we need a good balance. I always admire people with strong engineering mind, whether you're an engineer or designer. I like that because it can, complement something I perhaps is a little bit weak in, probably more on the right side, but we need both. Yeah. So there's nothing wrong if you're stronger in, either side.
I think to add to that, I don't think you need them, but I think it's good that if you're aware the existence of them, and I think that's all you need to know. Yeah.
And
Leverage your
good.
talents.
Yeah, and it's definitely good to work in, and this is happening in many design teams, that you have a diverse team with different backgrounds, with different thinking style, because that is really what will come, where you will get the great ideas. If you have people who think differently from you, that challenge your ideas and push them forward. I think that is really where it doesn't have to be just only your brain. You can lean on other brains as well.
Great, thank you, Karen. Yeah. So
just to maybe share what we found really kind of beneficial to kind of like our work environment is that to have people from different backgrounds together and then bouncing ideas, and then very often we were able to generate an idea that is better than the original ones. So I think the part where everybody working together and collaboratively, I think that is also one of the a very important factor.
thank you so much, Casey, for summing that up so beautifully. It's really about diverse teams working in a multidisciplinary teams where different skill sets come together. You could be, strong in your right brain, and your colleague could be one that brings in the analytical part, but you guys work together to actually produce a beautiful outcome. I think this is what working as a team, and the speakers have shared that you are not a lone ranger. As a designer, you work together with a diverse team. And as a designer, to the next question by Jeremy, how do you decide what compromises can be made on your design vision when limited by manufacturing or by budget? So we work with constraints. How do we decide what compromises can be made?
That's the holy grail, in fact. and I don't think it's a designer's sole decision. It has to be a joint decision. Yeah. Whether it's a compromise or whether it's maybe it's a little bit too pessimistic, but we do need some trade-offs sometimes, and we need balance. Yeah, perhaps balance is a better term, because like I always tell my team, there's no best solution, only better solution. Yeah. You probably can't achieve the best in the world, because if you manage to achieve it, probably you already missed the deadline. Yeah, so achieving the good balance is good enough.
Okay, so I hope that answer is the question is being answered, that it's all about balance. It's not just coming to a decision yourself, but having an approach together with your stakeholders, to see what are the kind of compromises that can be made in order to make the decision. It doesn't have to be the best, but at least a better one. Yes, okay.
And we deal with a lot of this kind of trade-off, and very often. And then what we found, I think one of the skill set that is pretty important is the skill sets of prioritizations. And there's a way to prioritize certain features and functions, and then having the ability to do that trade-off analysis. I think is something that is useful, that will be useful for that kind of situation. Okay.
Yeah, that's great, Casey. I think really prioritizing so that you can make the right decisions for trade-offs. Sorry, Karen, please go ahead.
No, I think it's me.
Oh, Nathan.
Yeah, well, I think furniture is less of that constraint because you know, when you do a digital product, there's a lot of cost involved, like billions or millions of dollars to develop a product. Where furniture are lesser, so there are more chance to try and error, and there are more creative freedom by designer. So anyone out there who just want to work with yourself, I think it's better off being a furniture designer than a digital designer, plant designer. Yeah. I think the only thing is only the cost, maybe the cost of the complexity of producing something in terms of furniture design. Yeah.
Okay, so we see two different aspects, one with constraints, others with just the cost of manufacturing. But again, you know, we do have to weigh the constraints that we have in order to make a good decision. So to the panelists, a question from Nasha. In regards to, to what Jeremy said about making things happen when it's not happening, what is your go-to method when being met with friction in your team? So this is all to all panelists, but referring to, I think, Jeremy's presentation. What will be your go-to method when met with friction?
Somehow what I shared invited a lot of questions. Okay, so I asked for it. I mean, to the true spirit of design thinking, the first thing we need to do is to understand what is the friction and what's the cause of it. Because if we don't know that, it's very hard for us to deal with it, right? And there are many ways to deal with frictions. So a simple answer is we need to understand what is causing the friction.
Okay, so really understanding the root cause. Yeah. Is there, this person particularly mentioned, is there any go-to method? So Jeremy, you did say design thinking, and you did mention go to the root cause. Any other speakers?
If I must use the so-called the jargon, which is empathy. Again, empathy is not just for our users. Empathy is also for our colleagues, for our clients, for the people who are involved. Yeah, so that applies.
And maybe I can add. Sorry.
No, sorry, Casey, you said.
Yeah, maybe I can add that when there's friction arises, many times you just don't have that data enough to make that decisions. So if there's friction that shows that there's some more things that needs to be done to collect that data in, and then so that the team can make a more informed decisions or design a solution. And that is something that we learned, during our work.
So gathering enough data to make an informed decision. Thanks, Casey. Nathan, you wanted to share something?
Yeah, but this sounds very petty. I think frictions apply to everything we do as long as human-to-human interaction. So I think it boils down to, does it happen to the particular project you're handling, or there's a long line of issues that's been built up between you and the person whatsoever. So I think that has to be clear first. And I think as creative person, we are always very passionate about our own belief. And like what Casey has said or Jeremy has shared, we need a lot of empathy. Again, a good listener to know where the other party comes from. So I think it's always good communication. And as a designer, we always need to be very good at communicating, because we need to design from understanding all other issues also anyway. So in a Singapore context, just buy a copy and that's all. And I don't know, it might sound very petty, not very professional, I don't know. But in furniture line, we just very passionate. I always argue with the technicians or the engineer. They want the wood to be super thick or super fat or whatever, and I want it the thinnest as possible. And we argue, and after we just go for lunch, and that's it. But again, it's applied to all kind of communication while you're in a workplace anyway. So I think it's empathy. You just have to see where the guy's coming from, that's all.
Yeah, really a common thread, empathy, or just have lunch.
Yeah, just have copy and don't talk about it, and have a good laugh. I'm sure the team here, Karen, Jeremy, Casey, we are all like that. We argue passionately about a project, and after that, okay, let's go for lunch or go for a drink. That's all. And we always have to do that. We need to drink a lot after every project, every day.
What a nice conclusion. And it's almost towards drinking time, happy hour. So I will take the last question because we've almost come to the end. One last question is in regards to, from Jenny, any anecdotes on how candidates for design opening impressed you during a job interview? So basically, what can the person do to stand out?
I just start with, for me, I'm looking for the right attitude. The right attitude in wanted to learn, and the right attitude to able to suffer, and the attitude to want to doing a good job. Yeah, so for me, it boils down to really having a good attitude in whatever that comes along, for them. That's all.
Thank you, Nathan.
Yeah, I would second that. I think attitude, definitely skills are important, absolutely, but I think attitude is one of the key things. And I'm always very interested in people who have a very diverse background, and that can mean like different places that they've lived in, or different educational backgrounds, so a designer with psychology, or architect who went to UI, etc. So I think those are interesting things in getting understanding what motivated them to go for these different experiences, different changes. That's what's always interesting.
Thank you, Karen. Casey or Jeremy, any anecdotes of where an interview has impressed you and made you?
I would say someone who are really passionate in what they are doing, and someone who has really strong interest in solving users' problem, relating to the user's problem. And then someone who has the persistency to continue to solve a problem and not to give up easily. Yeah.
Thanks, Casey.
Yeah, perhaps I can add a little bit, something I find quite personal. I'm looking for someone as well, besides those traits, someone who is reflective, which means by looking at their own work, they're able to reflect and know what was not done well and what could have been done better the next time. The thing is, you're dealing with experienced designers, the interviewers. They know what are the issues in your project. So you can't easily talk your way through, trying to, glorify the work. But the best strategy is to be honest and say that, what was not done well. And that can win, the heart of your interviewers.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. So really, to sum up for our audience here, it's really the passion and the attitude that you bring to the table, your curiosity that really drives the diversity of your background, having the grit and being reflective about your practice that helps you mature in your design career. And I think that was really an enriching conversation with the four panelists here. So I thank you so much for the response. And I apologize that I'm not able to go through all the many questions, but I would like to end with one statement that a audience has shared, and he's asked directly to Mr. Nathan Yong, can I shadow you? I'm a fan of your design. I've collected 4 solo chairs from a previous company, Air Division. So anyhow, my last statement is you may contact them after this session, and I'll hand the time over to Juliana. Thank you, back to you.
All right, thank you so much once again, Victoria and the recipients, for sharing your very real life experience and very candid answers with our audience. To our audience, we would appreciate it if you could help us to complete a short survey for this webinar to help us to improve on our future programs. There will be a special giveaway where you can win one of the 3 $50 Middle Ground and Tanuki Row vouchers at the National Design Center, plus an exclusive hard copy of the PDA 2020 publication when you share your greatest takeaway from the webinar. And I'm very sure there were many. So please do scan the QR code for the survey form. And if you would like to find out more about the various upcoming programs the National Design Center has lined up, do also scan the QR code that you see on your screens. And with that, we will be ending the session for today. Thank you once again to all of our speakers and to all of you for spending your Thursday afternoon with us. We look forward to seeing you at our future events. Have a good evening ahead and goodbye.